So, you might ask, is it Whiskey Wednesday? I thought today was Thursday, Halloween, in the States. You'd be right. It's not Wednesday. Did I have time to switch it over, though? No, because I went and I took my son out trick-or-treating with some friends, as is tradition that we do every year. And, yeah, I didn't have time to swap over the Whiskey Wednesday stuff with the normal stuff. So you know what? Every day is Whiskey Wednesday somewhere. That's what I'm going with. And I'm sticking to it. Because I am. That's what's going to happen. I am kind of tired. I'm not going to lie. Going out trick-or-treating, walking around the neighborhood for a couple of hours while the kids maximize the candy that they could get. Tired my old butt out. I'll tell you that. But they had fun, and that's all that mattered. His two friends of ours that we went with, the two little girls that they have dressed up in inflatable dragon costumes, and they were super cute. They made them look just gigantic, and they towered over above them, so they were actually looking out the dragon's neck. And they had inflatable fans on them, so it blew the whole thing up. So every time they walked, they kind of did this waddle thing because the whole suit would waddle. It was pretty cool. Although after about an hour and a half of it, I think even the little girls wearing the costumes were tired of it because all you could hear was and so they couldn't hear a thing. And they're trying to navigate around, and it's one of those things where the wings kind of stretch out a little bit. So it's hard to tell exactly where you're at, and they're knocking into things. And so I think next year different decisions might be made for what costume, or maybe not. Maybe they'll have forgotten and they'll want to do something similar. But anyways, we had fun. Hopefully you've had fun if you went out and participated in the trick-or-treated, or maybe you stayed home, watched some good classic Halloween movies like Halloween, or maybe Nightmare on Elm Street, or It. There's so many movies you can watch. Leprechaun, with the first appearance of Jennifer Aniston. Bet you might not have known that. I don't know. Fantastic movie. Not really. Hey, Christy, how's it going? Incoming. Yes, absolutely. How's it going? Nice to see you this evening. We're going to, 3, 2, what's incoming? I'm apprehensive now of what might be incoming. Turn down the music just a little bit. 1, 3, 2, 1. Surprise! Ellipses. 3, 2, 1. Ellipses. Oh, I'm dying now of anticipation. What could it be? What could be incoming? I don't know. Not sure. It will happen, I promise. Okay, waiting for it. We're on the edges of our seats here, or at least I am. What about you? Waiting for it. Wait for it. I think I know it might be coming, so I'm gonna wait until I talk about anything else, like what we're gonna do tonight, because I have a feeling I might be repeating myself soon. We'll see. Wait for it. Now's a good time to pretend like it still is Whiskey Wednesday, since I haven't changed over any of the stuff yet for that, since I didn't have time. And let's pour some straight Kentucky bourbon for tonight. And as you can see, very fitting for Halloween. It's the Walking Dead bourbon. And actually, it's pretty good. I thought it was going to taste like crap, but it's actually pretty good. There we go. All right. Steven Stuff rating. Thank you for the raid, sir. And look, even the alerts aren't working tonight. That's interesting. I didn't see it go off. Did you guys see it go off? I didn't see it go off. That's going to be fun. I noticed when I turned on the whole... I just switched over to Streamlabs from doing it from straight OBS, and stuff was not working properly. So that's great. Thank you so much for the raid there, Steven. How was your raid? How was your stream tonight? You're raiding now. How was your stream tonight? What did you end up doing? How was the stream? And Mama, how's it going? I saw you early. Was that today? Man, my days are like blending together. I know I talked to you earlier I think it was today. Now I don't remember. I talked to you at some point on somebody's stream. So nice to see you again is my point. Hey. All right. Oh, I combined chats over here, so I need to look over here. I'm going to get used to this. It's here. Thank you, Christy. And thank you, Steve and stuff again. Thank you, Raiders, for joining. Stream was good. Thank you. Typically unproductive on my part, but it served the purpose that it was laid out for it. Well, that's good. That's good. Well, you were probably a little bit productive, right? Did you do a writing stream today? I'm assuming you did a little bit of writing and productivity, hopefully. So I pour myself a dram, if you will, of our Walking Dead straight Kentucky bourbon. It's one of those nights. It's one of those nights. Anyways, that's good. I'm glad you had a good stream. Thank you, everybody, for joining tonight. We're going to be doing a little bit of Edgar Allan Poe reading. I think I might start off with a little warm-up. I found this actually yesterday on Instagram, and it kind of tickled my fancy. Hopefully it tickles your fancy, too. We'll see. But we're going to be reading some Edgar Allan Poe. I'm going to step over into the booth. We're going to do that whole thing. It's one of my favorite tales. You can probably tell down below what that is. The Telltale Heart. Telltale Heart. Ooh, it's going to be a fun reading tonight, I can tell. I'm already messing up words. And I haven't even started the drinking yet. It's going to get good. It's going to get good. Stay with me. And then we're going to pop over, maybe back to the desk, and then do a listen-along to a short horror story podcast that's a multi-cast podcast. It's done in the style of an audiobook, but every character voices their own lines. And then every character is the narrator of at least one episode. I open her up with episode 1, and then I close her down with episode 6. Fantastic little horror tale. I think you guys will like it if you're wanting to stick around and kind of listen and wind down towards the end of the stream. That's what we're going to do there. So let me catch up on chat here because I've been blabbing. I was writing, okay, and there was a burst of productivity in there somewhere that I will hopefully continue in a little while. Well, good. I hope you do. Get that productivity in there. That's right. You got to get the writing in when you can, right? And anything you can do to make it easier to get that writing done. There you go. You got to do it, right? I feel for you. Based on the fact that you're drinking at midnight here, I think it was super early today. Yeah. Well, here it's only 9:30, but just got back from doing the trick-or-treating with the kiddos, and I have found out that I am not as young as I used to be. Like, that 2 hours of walking around while they maximize their candy intake has worn my old butt out. But we're here. We're streaming. We're going to have fun. It's going to be great. Thank you for joining me. Hank, do you know the Tom Smith Filk song, Telltale Heart? No, I don't, actually. Now I have something to look up. Is it about the Edgar Allan Poe short story? Maybe? Tom Smith. Oh, folk song, I'm guessing. No, I haven't. Oh, it is. Okay. Well, now I definitely got to listen to it because this is one of my favorite Edgar Allan Poe stories. Like, The Raven's good, and there's some other stories that are fantastic. I can't really poo on any of Edgar Allan's stuff. I like pretty much all of it, but this one's one of my favorites. And you can find it on Bandcamp. Okay. Well, I'm gonna look that up, and you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna write it down. Because if I don't write it down, my old bud's gonna forget. You know what I mean? I know I'm gonna forget. I'm gonna get to the end of the stream and be like, hey, there was that song. And it's gonna in one ear and out the other. So let me write it down. All right, so we Telltale Heart by Tom Smith. Okay. I will check that out later for sure. Thank you so much. Now I got something to listen to later. All right, cool. Here we go. We do Trunk at Treat this year. There were 97 cars giving out candy. Holy crap. They had roughly 5,000 kids come through. You go a little bigger than I'm used to, Mama. Go big or go home, I guess, right? I don't think I've ever seen that many kids trick-or-treating all at once. We used to do this like trunk-or-treat thing at my son's school, where we kind of do that, like we decorate all of our cars and then the kids would come through, but there definitely wasn't 5,000 of them. That's for sure. That's a little overwhelming. Maybe a couple of hundred, and I was overwhelmed at that point. Right. Yikes. They came home with, no joke, 5 number sign of candy. 5 pounds of candy? The pound sign? I got it! It took me a second. I think I need to catch up. I think I'm slow tonight. Course through my veins there, Bourbon. Help the brain catch up. Pounds. No, I'm slow. It's not you. It's me. It's not you. It's me. How many times have I said that in my life? Not a lot. Pounds of candy. 5 pounds of candy. That's diabetes right there. that's a lot of candy. Score, though. That's awesome. So do you do the whole, like, decorate your cars and stuff? Like everybody decorates their cars, or is it just like a mass like box of candy and everybody just runs through as fast as they can, like a mosh pit of candy or something? Now I'm interested. I'm all in. I want to know. Mama. You gotta let me know. Details. Not that I'm gonna like recreate this thing at all. It's way too ambitious for me. It's each car giving out candy. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So each car, the kids can kind of go through and do that. So, okay. My favorite car this year was Inside Out. Okay, so they do themes. Okay, they do. See what I did there? Inside Out. That's awesome. I have seen that a couple of times. And I think they just came out with the second one? I want to say I did not go see it, but I think the second one came out, right? I think he was wanting to go see it in the theater or something, if I'm remembering the right film. I could be wrong, and I'm fine with that. But anyways, let's warm up a little bit, shall we? With this cute little play on a children's story that the original I've read I don't even know how many times. You know, like when your kid's really little and they latch on to like their favorite book. This was one of them. And his favorite movie at the time, I don't even remember what the name of the movie was. I blocked it out of my memory, but it was on Netflix, and it was about these little turtles. Like, it was a little baby turtle, and it kind of followed him throughout his life, and like these marine scientists like tagged him, and it's this whole story, and I think he was like swimming away from sharks or something at one point, but we watched that thing so many times. This book is also one of those that we had to read over and over and over again. But you know what? He's perfectly happy when you're reading it, so I'm perfectly happy to read it. I like this little take on it. Hopefully you guys will too. So let's warm up with a little bit of The Hungry Caterpillar. Halloween edition is what I'm calling it. So here we go. Hopefully you guys can see that. Let me switch over to the desktop scene here so you can see it. There we go. Now everybody can see it. Yay! All right. Let me pull up the other ones here so we can go through it. All right. Once upon a time, there was a very hungry, genetically modified caterpillar. On Monday, he ate through one apple, but he was still hungry. On Tuesday, he ate 2 whole pears, but he was still hungry. On Wednesday, he ate 3 watermelons, but he was still hungry. On Thursday, he ate 4 secret government facility guards, but he was still hungry. On Friday, he ate 5 semi-trucks, but he was still hungry. On Saturday, he ate 6 United States Nimitz-class supercarriers, but he was still hungry. On Sunday, he ate 7 nuclear missile strikes, but you guessed it. But he was still hungry. Dun dun dun. As I close all of these out now, I thought it was, I don't know. I'm a dork, I know, but I thought it was funny. I thought it was, hopefully you enjoyed it too. Also, before we jump over into the booth and we start the whole reading thing, I do have to point out one very important thing in the channel, especially if you're here on Twitch, and that is the art that is featured right up there by a fellow streamer. You might recognize their art, and I put in the information on the channel. And why did that not work? Oh, interesting. Let me see if I have to do it this way. There we go. Okay, I have to use that chat, otherwise it doesn't do the commands. Okay, noted. Mental note. Neurospicy actually is a fellow streamer and artist, and fantastic artist, actually. Super talented. Go check out their stream. They stream, I can't remember the exact schedule, but shoot her out a follow there, or them out a follow there. Let me actually shout out their channel, and that might actually, oh, I can't actually unless they're in the channel. Well. Neurospicy is how you find them. I highly recommend you go follow them and watch some fantastic art. Why not? And that's a little information about them in the channel there. If you're on Twitch, you can go to their website, check out their portfolio, and if you're wanting to maybe do a little bit of commission work, maybe that's something you're looking for, the coffee link is down there below that you can also check out as well. With that said, let's jump into the booth. Let's do some Edgar Allan Poe stuff, shall we? Let's do it. All right, let's jump over there. I'll meet you over there in a second with my drink. See you there. It's not Wednesday. There you go. I didn't have time to switch it. I'm sorry. Here we go. I'll be there. I'll be there. I promise. I'm running. Thanks, Steve. Go lurk. Go take care of your stuff. Thanks for stopping by. And see if you come back. Yeah. Yeah. All right. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. Drink in hand. It's a super long walk over to the booth, you know? All the way across the other side of the room. Crazy. Craziness. Oh, and of course that turned off, right? Come on. You can do it. No. What the? Fifth time's the charm. All right, whatever. Oh, don't knock that over. It's a little cramped in the booth. I got a little, 3x3 booth here. How's that music for everybody? Is that a good volume? Is it too loud? I know it's louder for me than it is for you, so it should just be kind of in the background, providing a little spooky mood, if you will. Hopefully that's good. Oh, it's good. Thank you, Christy. Thank you. All right. As long as it's not overpowering for you. Distracting as hell for me, but I'll get used to it. Thank you again for joining me tonight. Let's jump into some Edgar Allan Poe, originally published in 1843, The Tell-Tale Heart. This is one of my favorites. I really like the story. It's dark, it's macabre, it's Poe, but it's good. I love how the tale kind of unfolds, and start to finish, I think it's fantastic. So, here we go. The Tell-Tale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. True. Nervous, very, very dreadfully nervous I had been and am. But why will you say that I am mad? The disease had sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was the sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in heaven and in earth. I heard many things in hell. How then am I mad? Hearken and observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived it haunted me day and night. Object? There was none. Passion? There was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. For his gold, I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. He had the eye of a vulture, a pale blue
eye with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold. And so by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Now, this is the point. You fancy me mad. Madmen know nothing. But you should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded, with what caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. And every night, about midnight, I turned the latch of his door and opened it, oh, so gently. And then, when I had made an opening sufficient for my head, I put in a dark lantern, all closed so that no light shone out, and then thrust in my head. Oh, how you would have laughed to see how cunningly I thrust it in. I moved it slowly, very, very slowly, so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. It took me an hour to place my whole head within the opening, so far that I could see him as he lay upon his bed. Would a madman have been so wise as this? And then, when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern cautiously, oh, so cautiously, for the hinges creaked, and I undid it just so much that a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye. And this I did for 7 long nights, every night just at midnight. But I found the eye always closed. And so it was impossible to do the work, for it was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. And every morning, when day broke, I went boldly into the chamber and spoke courageously to him, calling him by name in a hearty tone, and inquiring how he has passed the night. So, you see, he would have been a very profound old man indeed to suspect that every night, just at 12, I looked in upon him while he slept. Upon the 8th night, I was more than usually cautious in opening the door. A watch's minute hand moves more quickly than did mine. Never before that night had I felt the extent of my own powers, of my sagacity. I could scarcely contain my feelings of triumph to think that there I was, opening the door little by little, and he not even to dream of my secret deeds or thoughts. I fairly chuckled at the idea, and perhaps he heard me, for he moved on the bed suddenly as if startled. Now, you may think that I drew back, but no. His room was as black as pitch, with a thick darkness, for the shutters were close-fastened through fear of robbers, and so I knew that he could not see the opening of the door, and I kept pushing it on steadily. I had my head in, and I was about to open the lantern when my thumb slipped upon the tin fastening, and the old man sprang up in bed, crying out, "Who's there?" I kept quite still and said nothing. For a whole hour I did not move a muscle, and in the meantime I did not hear him lie down. He was still sitting up in the bed and listening, just as I have done, night after night, hearkening to the death watches in the wall. Presently, I heard a slight groan, and I knew it was the groan of mortal terror. It was not a groan of pain or grief, oh no. It was the low, stifled sound that arises from the bottom of the soul when overcharged with awe. I knew the sound well. Many a night, just at midnight, when all the world slept, it has welled up from my own bosom, deepening with its dreadful echo the terrors that distracted me. I say I knew it well. I knew what the old man felt and pitied him, although I chuckled at heart. I knew that he had been lying awake ever since the first slight noise, when he had turned in bed. His fears had been ever since growing upon him. He had been trying to fancy them causeless, but could not. He had been saying to himself, "It is nothing but the wind in the chimney. It is only a mouse crossing the floor," or "It is merely a cricket which has made a single chirp." Yes, he had been trying to comfort himself with these suppositions, but he had found all in vain because death, in approaching him, had stalked with his black shadow before him and enveloped the victim. And it was the mournful influence of the unperceived shadow that caused him to feel, although he never saw nor heard, to feel the presence of my head within the room. When I had waited a long time, very patiently, without hearing him lie down, I resolved to open a very, very little crevice in the lantern. So I opened it. You cannot imagine how stealthily, until, at length, a single dim ray, like the thread of a spider, shot out from the crevice and fell upon the vulture eye. It was open. Wide open, and I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with perfect distinctness, all a dull blue, with a hideous veil over it that chilled the very marrow in my bones, but I could see nothing else of the old man's face or person, for I had directed the ray, as if by instinct, precisely upon the damned spot. This is creepy, isn't it? I love it. I'm going to give myself a drink. Are you guys enjoying it so far? Can you hear it okay over the music? I'm wondering. I have the diamond by my name, huh? Thank you. Oh, you are welcome. You are welcome. Yeah, I gave you the VIP. You know what I mean? VIP. All right. Back into it. I love the story. It's so creepy, and he's so intense with this, and it's, I don't know, the way that it's written, I get the feeling of, him creeping in just super slow, and the old man being and terrified in the dark, knowing that he heard something, but he can't see anything, and this whole sense of dread, and it's painted very, very well here by Mr. Poe, and it's so good. It's so good. It kind of gives me chills just kind of reading it. So good. Anyways, back to it, right? Here we go. If I can get my mouse to work with me here. And have I not told you that what you mistake for madness is but over-acuteness of the senses? Now, I say, there came to my ears a low, dull, quick sound, which, as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I knew that sound well, too. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury, as the beating of a drum stimulates the soldier into courage. But even yet I refrained and kept still. I scarcely breathed. I held the lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eye. Meantime, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and quicker and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder, I say louder, every moment. Do you mark me well? I have told you that I am nervous, so I am. And so at the dead hour of night, amid the dreadful silence of that old house, so strange a noise as this excited me into uncontrollable terror. Yet for some minutes longer I refrained and stood still. But the beating grew louder. I thought the heart must burst, and now a new anxiety seized me. The sound would be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell, I threw open the lantern and leaped into the room. He shrieked once, only once. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor and pulled the heavy bed over him. I then smiled gaily to find the deed so far done. But for many minutes, the heart beat on with a muffled sound. This, however, did not vex me. It would not be heard through the wall. At length, it ceased. The old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the corpse. Yes, he was stone dead. I placed my hand upon the heart and held it there many minutes. There was no pulsation. He was stone dead. His eye would trouble me no more. If still you think me mad, you will think so no longer when I describe the precise precautions I took for the concealment of the body. The night waned, and I worked hastily but in silence. First of all, I dismembered the corpse. I cut off the head and the arms and the legs. Then took up 3 planks from the flooring of the chamber and deposited all between the scantlings. I then replaced the boards so cleverly, so cunningly, that no human eye, not even his, could have detected anything wrong. There was nothing to wash out, no stain of any kind, no blood spot whatever. I had been too wary for that. A tub had caught all. When I had made an end of these labors, it was 4 o'clock, still dark as midnight. As the bell sounded the hour, there came a knocking at the street door. I went down to open it with a light heart, for what had I now to fear? There entered 3 men who introduced themselves with perfect suavity as officers of the police. A shriek had been heard by a neighbor during the night. Suspicion of foul play had been aroused. Information had been lodged at the police office, and they, the officers, had been deputed to search the premises. I smiled, for what had I to fear? I bade the gentleman welcome. The shriek, I said, was my own in a dream. The old man, I mentioned, was absent in the country. I took my visitors all over the house. I bade them search well. I led them at length to his chamber, showed them his treasures, secure, undisturbed. In the enthusiasm of my confidence, I brought chairs into the room and desired them here to rest from their fatigues, while I myself, in the wild audacity of my perfect triumph, placed my own seat upon the very spot beneath which reposed the corpse of the victim. The officers were satisfied. My manner had convinced them I was singularly at ease. They sat, and while I answered cheerily, they chatted of familiar things. But ere long I felt myself getting pale and wished them gone. My head ached, and I fancied a ringing in my ears, but still they sat and still chatted. The ringing became more distinct. It continued and became more distinct. I talked more freely to get rid of the feeling, but it continued and gained definiteness. Until at length, I found that the noise was not within my ears. No doubt I now grew very pale. I talked more fluently and with a heightened voice, yet the sound increased, and what could I do? It was a low, dull, quick sound, such a sound as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I gasped for breath, and yet the officers heard it not. I talked more quickly, more vehemently, but the noise steadily increased. I arose and argued about trifles in a high key with violent gesticulations, but the noise steadily increased. Why would they not be gone? I paced the floor to and fro with my heavy strides, as if excited to fury by the observations of the men, but the noise steadily increased. God, what could I do? I foamed, I raved, I swore, I swung the chair upon which I had been sitting and grated it upon the boards, but the noise arose over all and continually increased. It grew louder, 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 and still the men chatted pleasantly and smiled. Was it possible they heard not? Almighty God? No, they heard. They suspected, they knew. They were making a mockery of my horror. This I thought, and this I think. But anything is better than this agony. Anything was more tolerable than this derision. I could not bear those hypocritical smiles no longer. I felt that I must scream or die, and now, again, hark! Louder, 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 louder! Villains! I shrieked. Dissemble no more. I admit the deed. Tear up the planks. Here, here. It is the beating of his hideous heart. Now, he says at the beginning he's not mad. You believe him? Think he was driven mad by guilt. Oh, Poe, you rascally rabbit, you. I love this tale. Oh, it's so good. I love him, like, being actually pretty calm, like he said he was going to be in the beginning. And then just losing his marbles by the end. He had convinced him that the old man was gone. He got away with killing the old man, but in the end, he gave himself. I love this. Oh, so good. So good. Anyways, let's go back over to the desktop. Let's talk, have some more beverages, if you will, and let's get into maybe listening to some podcasties. Depends how you define madness. Well, true. Touché. Touché. Let's head back over to the desk and let's talk some more. Shall we? Maybe. Here we go. Oh no. I didn't mean to drop that. No! I'm dropping everything. I'm on my way, I promise.
There were casualties. There were casualties. I feel like he probably was criminally responsible. You could say that, I think. I think that's a safe bet. I think you could definitely say that. Definitely criminally responsible. I wonder why those are not working. That is interesting. Okay. Streamlabs. This was the problem with it before. Why I just went to straight OBS, because like stuff just stopped working. Hopefully it's transparent to you, but that's a bummer. Anyways, yeah, okay, all right. So we have to take a poll here of those that are still with me. What is your favorite Edgar Allan Poe tale? Or if you don't have any Edgar Allan Poe tales, what's your favorite short horror fiction tale? This is definitely one of my favorites. In M. Nagant's case, 1843, the English judges held that to establish a defense on the ground of insanity, it must be clearly proved that at the time of the committing of the act, the party accused as laboring under such a defect of reason from disease of the mind as to not know the nature and quality of the act he was doing, or if he did know it, that he did not know he was doing what was wrong. Okay. Interesting. The Telltale Heart is my favorite. All right. Another one for the Telltale. We're on the same team there, Jesse. We're on the same team. All right. At least as far as this tale goes. Right there with you. One of my favorites. So good. He's correct that the precautions he took indicate that he was aware of what he was doing and that it was wrong. Absolutely. He knew. He knew. I don't think there was any doubt that was cast by Poe in this that he didn't know, right? He was fully aware 100% of the time, although I think he tries to make the excuse that it wasn't the old man really, it was that vulturous eye, that evil eye, and I don't know if that's him trying to justify his actions kind of internally to himself. Well, he was evil. He had an evil eye. That I had to kill him. Or if that's alluding to something else that maybe I'm not capturing. Because there's a lot of like Poe that every time I read it, I kind of discover more about his pieces and learn something new, right? And I love like reading like breakdowns that different people have on the different stories that he's done, because I always like get a different picture and more understanding of the different things. And even like breaking down some of the language that's in it kind of lends itself to more understanding of the piece. I like his very, very specific word choice in this piece as well, and it really kind of just it paints the picture so well, right? Even in kind of in that last part where he's talking about the violent gesticulations and him like just losing his marbles and shouting there on the floor, right? And smashing the chair into it and stuff. It's just so good. I mean, obviously, but which means that legally he was not mad. Exactly, from the 1843 English judges there, right? I think is what you were kind of alluding to, right? If you know fully well what you're doing and you know that it's wrong, then you can't be crazy, right? I don't know if I can think of a situation in which you know what you're doing 100%, you're fully aware of what you're doing, but you can still be considered crazy and not responsible in the court of, law, right? Maybe there's a particular case that I can think of, or maybe the action itself. Then I don't know. We could sit here, I guess, all night and wax on that one, right? I think this is my first Poe story. Thank you. Oh, off to bed for me. Well, thank you for joining, and I'm glad I can introduce the Poe story to you. Or are you saying that this was the first one that you've read? This was your introduction, not me, but this was your introduction to Poe. Either way, have a very good night. And if you're streaming here next week, I will see you there, Christy, to try to get production done for myself as well. First one that I have read. Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I don't think it was my first. I think I read The Raven first. But this definitely was one of like the first 4 or 5 that I've read. I need to read more of his stuff too, because I really like it, but I read like a handful of his stuffs. Are we thinking that the illness to which he referred was syphilis? I've heard that before. Like I was reading some kind of thing about the story, and I don't know. I remember reading something about that, but I don't remember the specific details as to how they were trying to draw those two parallels from that evil eye and I don't quite remember. I know it was something about that, but maybe I think they say that Hitler had syphilis, they think, too, and that's might have maybe have been some of his problems towards the end and the craziness. Not that that is an excuse for the horrible crap that dude did, but wasn't that what it was too? Like, it drives people insane, right? Because it affects your brain eventually if it goes unchecked for a certain amount of time. And back then, they might not have had the drugs, the pharmaceuticals, the know-how to cure that, right? Or lessen the symptoms at least. Okay, I see. Is this a story where he's investigating something, right? No, he's not really investigating something in this one. It's basically like the whole story is him. At the beginning, he tells you he's not crazy, hear him out. And then he tells you how he stalked this old man every night and then finally killed him, and then almost got away with the murder when some policemen came over because a neighbor reported the scream that they heard in the night from the old man. And he almost got away with it. They were chatting in the whole room, and then it just, I think the craziness, whatever drove him to the craziness, he said he heard the heartbeat, and it kind of, he just couldn't take it anymore, and he ended up basically telling on himself. He ratted himself out. He like stood up and like smashed the chair into the floor and told him that's where he buried the body, and obviously kind of that was the end of the tale there at the end. So no, he wasn't investigating anything per se, but it was more of a story about his denying his slip into madness, I think, but not really into. I think he's trying to say that he slipped into madness by saying that he didn't slip into madness, but he definitely didn't because he knew what he was doing. If that makes sense. I explained that poorly. Also hearing a reverb on this mic that I haven't heard before. Not sure why. Oh, okay. Let me turn it off, turn it on. That usually works, right? Okay, what about that? A little better? Hopefully. Hopefully. Let's pull up the other thingamajigger here so we can get that going. Boom, diddy, boom, boom. Okay. I'm going to switch over now to a podcast that I do short story narration. Still there, but I have really loud speakers. Others may not be detecting it. Okay, that's interesting. I wonder if it's... Oh, you know what? I wonder if this will help. Let's see here, that was 48. What about now? That might have taken care of it. Hopefully it did. Anyways, perfect. Okay, that's what it was. I still had the volume up from the other one. Interesting that you could actually hear it. Interesting. Anyways, let's switch over to the podcast. So, as I was saying, the Other Stories podcast is two gentlemen out of the UK created this podcast. I think it was 2014, 2015, somewhere in there. I think that's when I started narrating for them as one of the narrators of this podcast. And they write short horror fiction. And if you are a writer and you like to write short horror or thriller stories, they take other writers' stories as well as submissions to be entered in to possibly get picked up by them for that particular week or month. And it'll be fully produced by an audiobook narrator, voice actor, and music and sound effects and the whole 9 yards. Every month they have a theme. So your story that you would submit to them would have to fit that theme. So let's say it's like AI, or one of the themes was sea creatures or octopuses specifically. And it was all the stories for that month. They have a new story, 4 stories, one every week, was about octopuses, right? Or whatever the theme may be. But anyways, if you're a writer, you can submit stuff to them, theotherstories.net. And if it gets picked up for that week, if they like it, then it goes into a whole thing and we produce it and goes up, and then you can hear it kind of read live with the whole thing. So this particular set of podcast episodes is their Halloween special. The last episode actually came out tonight, which is the closer to the whole thing. As I was kind of explaining towards the very beginning, it's about a haunted mansion, and there's these ghost hunters that have this show, and that's kind of their job, on the TV shows. They go in, they do the paranormal investigation types of things, but they've come up to this haunted hotel, this haunted manor, and they're going in. Each main character, narrates an episode out of the 6 episodes that are there, and but it's multicast in a way that you're narrating an episode, but all of the other characters are still voicing their own lines. So it's read very much in the way of like an audiobook would be, except it's multicast in that all the characters do their own lines. It was a very interesting experience because normally, like doing short story narration, we do all the voices, right? And doing audiobook narrations, obviously I'm doing all of the characters and all the voices myself too. I haven't done an actual like dual cast or multicast audiobook yet. I've been a voice in one, but I haven't narrated one yet. So this is a unique experience for me so far, and it was really fun. Their Halloween special episodes tend to be really, really good. They put a lot of effort into them. And they do specials every now and then when they have like really good, like a really good series that they want to focus on and really bring it up. Of which
I will definitely be showcasing on this stream here eventually. But tonight we're going to be doing the Halloween special for this year. I'm excited for you guys to hear it. I think what I'll do, yeah, I'll probably play episode 1 again. Was there anybody that was here yesterday for Whiskey Wednesday that has heard the first episode already? Maybe I'll skip just into the second episode, but the first episode's a pretty good introduction about what's going on. But if most of you have heard it already, I'll just do a brief recap and we can just jump into the second episode. Let me catch up on chat here a little bit. Auditory hallucinations drove him to confess because he didn't identify them as hallucinations. It was clearly a degenerative neurophysiological condition of some sort. Okay. I need sleep. More horror is probably not what I need right now. Hey, no problem. Take off. Have a good night. Have a good rest. And thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Jesse said, do you think it might be overwhelming guilt? Like what people feel when they don't pay their debts. Could have been. Could have been. Could have been. But I think, yeah, there's something going on in that story. And I love this story in that even after you get done reading it, you have so many questions afterwards still, right? But you can follow it perfectly and you know exactly what happened. But you have all these things that draws out all these emotions while you're listening to it, how creepy it is. And it's just so good. Anyways, on to this. No, because he noted the illness and heightened sensory hallucinations before the murder. Good point. Good point. Well, he noted heightened sensory acuity. True. Very true. Very true. You're really good at breaking these things down. I might have some stories I'll send your way. Just break them down for me, so I if you would, right? All right. Anyways, I'll stop blabbing. We'll get into the episodes here. And we'll go from there. Let me turn up the volume. Oh, there it is. Pause that, and then yeah, I think we'll just jump into episode 1 unless anybody has any problems, and we'll go from there. If you have any questions about this actual story or the Other Stories podcast, or narration in general, or whatever, let me know, and we can talk about it during 2. We can just hit pause and have a conversation, if you will. So don't be afraid to ask questions if you want. All right, let's break into this one here. I think, if I remember right, all the ads are at the very end. So I think we can just start. If not, I'll fast forward through them and catch us up to the start of the story. But I think they're all at the end. So I think we're good there. And here we go. Hearing things others don't is high auditory acuity. It's hard to tell which is from the inside.
The Hotel was produced by the Story Studio
Oh,
Hall
no!
and Cleaver.
Not the end, because we listened to it last night. Let's start over at the beginning. Let's try that again. Here we go.
Hello. My name is Georgia Cook, one half
Good night.
of the writing team behind the Homewood
Thanks for stopping
Foundation,
by.
a found-footage horror fiction podcast
Sleep well.
written as a sequel to the novel Dracula. Our story follows Jeremy Larkin and Maddie Townsend, 2 co-workers at the mysterious Homewood Foundation, as they are possessed by the ghosts of Jonathan and Mina Harker and embark on a road trip across the country carrying Dracula's severed head in an effort to achieve their ghost's wishes, to stop Dracula once and for all. We are about to launch our Kickstarter for Season 1, but you are able to listen to our trailer and pilot episode for free wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify, Acast, and Apple Podcasts.
There we go. Real quick, before we jump into the episode, I want to point out that Georgia Cook, the lady that was talking at the beginning there, is actually the writer. Super talented. And actually a really good narrator and voice actress as well. I need to check out the production that she was talking about because it sounds super cool. And if it's written by Georgia Cook, I'm in. Also, the gentleman that one of, I guess, half of the original creators of the Other Stories podcast is Luke Condor, and he plays Simon in this. And he narrates stories too from time to time because he's a writer and he writes stories and he'll narrate his own stories sometimes, which is fantastic. But it always makes me smile when I hear him.
especially like in this role, because he's a pretty nice guy, and to hear him be like, all right, action, cut. It's just, I don't know. It makes me smile. So that's why I'm smiling like an idiot when I hear Simon talk. That's why. But anyways, here we go.
Blood drips from their mouths.
You're a tonight. More news from 6, but for now, hope you settled in for a spooky time with your favourite ghost hunters, because the Phantom Finds team are at it again.
I love this theme music. Mr. Duncan Muggleton is very talented. I can just listen to this while I work, to be honest.
Right.
Simon's voice cut across the driveway.
We want this in a single take, okay? No cuts, just walk and talk.
I know what a single take means, Simon, Ian muttered, flashing his director a withering smile. A stiff breeze rolled across the moors, ruffling the crew's hair and sending leaves dancing across the gravel at their feet. Just out of shot, Ian's co-host Claire sat on the steps of the Phantom Finds van, struggling with the lid of a coffee thermos, while their camerawoman Philippa fiddled with a box of lenses. Alex, the sound technician, dressed this morning in a Phantom Finds branded hoodie, caught Ian's lingering stare and lifted the boom mic higher, flashing an apologetic grin. Ian scowled. Amateurs. Simon lifted his hands for quiet.
Ready, everyone?
He called.
Ready.
Said Alex. With a sigh, Philippa shouldered her camera and nodded.
Ready.
Good. And action.
Ian adjusted his lilac suit cuffs, meeting Philippa's camera with a charming smile. Fellmore Hotel, he began, motioning to the building looming behind him. Built in the late 1700s, a monument to the wealth and privilege of decades past.
I'm going to pause real quick and just check in with you guys. Are you able to hear it fine? Is it loud enough? I'm almost maxed out on the volume, but I want to make sure that you guys can hear it. And I think it should be coming in stereo. Hopefully that's working right too. Like, there's sometimes it kind of is more to the right or left ear if you're, I guess, not listening in mono, but just checking in, make sure you can hear it okay. I really like these, how this is done with the multicast. It kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you've gotten the chance to listen to, I used to listen to them when I was a kid, reruns of them, of the old school radio plays like OTR, like The Shadow, Amos and Andy, The Whistler, Dragnet, those type of things. It kind of reminds me of that a little bit, right? Maybe not as... I don't know what the right word is, like old school like that, where you're hearing all of the Foley effects live as they do it. Like it's definitely like produced, but it reminds me of that so much. Like I super enjoy listening to this, but anyways, I'll go back to it. Hopefully you guys are hearing it okay. If you're not, just let me know.
Over Philippa's shoulder, the bulk of Fellmore rose against the skyline. A monolith of pitted marble and crumbling brick, 5 floors of glittering windows and gabled facades, sagging under the weight of itself. If nothing else, it made a magnificent backdrop. Ian clapped his hands, preparing to walk in a brisk curve towards the hotel entrance. Now locked to the public, Phantom Finds has tonight been granted unique access inside these rotting walls to finally answer the question. Simon reappeared over Philippa's shoulder.
Great, yeah. I'll cut you there, Ian.
Ian dropped his hands. What is it, Simon?
All good.
Simon spread his arms in a conciliatory gesture.
Just like a certain sparkle, you know.
No.
Why don't we try it with Claire in front of the hotel?
Claire jumped to attention at the mention of her name, almost spilling coffee down her blouse.
Sure.
she squeaked, hurriedly flattening her hair. Simon turned back to Ian.
You all right with that?
Oh, fine. Ian waved a hand, anger and humiliation rising in his gut. Claire was a new addition to the show, just one of Simon's special little ideas to bring Phantom Finds back to the glory days of its early seasons. A fresh face with a fresh new smile, someone to contrast with Ian's gray-haired dignity, as Simon had so diplomatically put it in the week they started filming. Someone to contrast with a drastically cut paycheck, more like. Philippa flashed Ian a commiserating glance as she followed Claire across the drive. Ian scowled. He'd heard the two of them arguing again last night, their raised voices piercing the hotel's paper-thin walls. Philippa had spent the morning maintaining an air of brisk professionalism, while Claire's breezy brightness had acquired a sharp new twinge. They weren't fooling anyone. Ian slumped against the van, fumbling in his pocket for a cigarette. Bloody Simon and his stupid bloody show.
Yeah, Bloody Simon.
There'd been a time when the name Ian Sinclair would have sold any show on television. Back in the 80s, he'd achieved near godlike status with his garish day-glow suits and winning smile. Now, here he was, 3 marriages down and child support draining every bank account. A D-list presenter on a D-list ghost-hunting show, surpassed by a wide-eyed director and colleagues barely out of drama school. What a joke. Up by the hotel entrance, the crew had gathered to reset the shot. Claire stood awkwardly, letting Simon fuss around her like a small red-hatted dog, while Philippa and Alex checked their equipment. Fillmore loomed behind them, the eternal 6th participant, its windows winking like the eyes of some vast brick insect.
Okay,
Claire tugged self-consciously at her jumper.
from the top.
From the top!
Simon beamed. Alex gave her an encouraging smile. Philippa flashed a non-committal thumbs up. Ian took a long drag of his cigarette, watching the smoke curl away into the slate-gray sky.
And... action.
Fellmore Hotel,
Claire jolted into motion.
built in the late 1700s, a monument to the wealth and privilege of decades past.
Ian caught her gaze as it darted towards him. He returned it coldly.
Now locked to the public, Phantom Finds has tonight been granted unique access inside these rotting walls to finally answer the question,
She paused, her smile tightening.
what can we find?
Simon beamed. Alex winced. Philippa rolled her eyes. Even Ian could muster a twinge of sympathy.
All right, last time I'll pause it before the end. I promise. Okay, I don't promise because I'll probably break that promise immediately, but I'll try not to, really hard. I'll try not to pause it again. But I want to point out that I don't know if you guys can read this on the screen here, but Georgia Cook, the writer, is actually Claire, and she's going to do the second episode narration, and she's fantastic. Truthfully, I think she did a way better job than I did, but you're your own worst critic, right? Anyways, back to it. She's fantastic.
The catchphrase had been Simon's idea, a series of words nobody in the history of acting could force to sound natural.
Situated on the edge of Fell Brook, North Yorkshire,
Claire continued.
Fellmore crumbled as its residents departed. Although many have expressed interest, none have yet braved the depths to restore this ruin to its former glory.
Claire faltered.
And yet something.
Philippa muttered.
And yet something remains.
Claire continued.
From footsteps heard by night watchmen who complain of being followed down dark, winding halls, to teenage trespassers who claim to have seen images of themselves sprawled across the hotel walls, to ghostly lights and laughter reported by locals. Perhaps tonight we will finally encounter the spirits of Fellmore Hotel and unlock its mysteries.
Simon clapped his hands.
Cut! Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Was that okay?
Claire asked, grinning nervously.
Perfect.
Simon made a mark on his clipboard.
Very nice. Very, pretty.
Claire's smile faltered. Oblivious, Simon waved them towards the hotel doors.
Let's head inside, people.
He called.
The owners were adamant we only film during daylight, and only on the ground floor, so God knows what we're working with.
Why only daylight?
Asked Philippa, as Simon pulled out a set of impressive metal keys from his coat pocket. Simon shrugged, inserting one of the keys into the door's rusting lock.
Loose floorboards, leaky roof. The mysteries of health and safety continue to baffle and alarm.
He gave the doors a push. They opened with an alarming creak, revealing darkness on the other side.
Hey, Ian?
Simon turned to the van.
Good to go?
Ian stamped out a cigarette with a grunt and levered himself off the van. As he made his way across the driveway, a flicker of movement caught his eye. Ian squinted, his gaze drawn to the windows studding the hotel's front. Someone was standing at a window on the 3rd floor, staring out across the grounds. It was too distant to make out anything but a pale smudge, a hint of purple behind the grimy glass, but the shape was unmistakably human. As if sensing Ian's stare, the figure shifted. Ian caught a flash of fleeting white, a pale hand lifted in greeting, a smile that cut the figure's face like an open wound. Frozen in shock, it took Ian a moment to realize what he was actually seeing. A bowed window frame, warped with age and neglect. Ian's own reflection, angled from above so that it appeared to be watching him, a flash of lingering smoke forming the ghost of a smile. Ian shook himself. Stupid. He was being stupid. Wouldn't Simon just love it if he reported seeing something on a shoot? Ian Sinclair, spooked by a shadow. Ian adjusted his cuffs, tugging at his shirt collar, and stared across the drive once more. He looked again. The window on the 3rd floor stood empty. The mirage was gone. The hotel door sat atop a set of pitted marble steps, flanked by a pair of weathered stone lions. Claire was standing on the top step as Ian approached, fiddling with her clip-on mic. "Very pretty," Ian muttered as he passed. He saw Claire stiffen. It was a nasty, pointless little comment, he knew, but the figure in the window had spooked him. He needed someone to make miserable, to remember this was his production, made famous because he'd willed it.
All right, I immediately broke my promise, I know. I love playing Ian in this production because he's such an ass. I don't know what it is. I love playing like bad guys and people that are just assholes. You know what I mean? I think it's because it's completely not me, but there's a little tinge of like some stuff I wish I could like say something. You know what I mean, right? Like the things that you're like, oh, I wish I could say this to you, but you don't. Anyways, back to the story.
Not Simon, not Claire, not Alex or Philippa. Ian. Claire's expression of tight-lipped hurt followed Ian through the doorway into the hotel. Ian blinked, caught off guard by the sudden darkness as he stepped over the threshold. Gloom and space stretched away ahead of him. A smell like rotten vegetation assailed Ian's senses, spiked with something both loamy and metallic. The lobby of Fillmore Hotel occupied a vast chunk of the ground floor, stretching upwards into a cavern of rotten plaster and glinting marble. A huge central staircase dominated the back wall, leading to a series of curved balconies along the 1st and 2nd floors. Doors led off in all directions, some hanging open into distant rooms, others wedged shut and thick with moss. A combination of leaves and broken glass crunched underfoot. Sunlight spilled through a crown of windows on the upper landing, dappling the shadows and spiking the air with gold. Claire slipped past Ian without a word, her gaze fixed upwards. Up ahead, Alex had paused on the checkerboard tiles to stare around themselves in awe.
Oh, wow.
They breathed.
Brilliant, isn't it?
Simon grinned, his voice and footsteps echoing as he bounded across the lobby floor.
Look at that banister. Those tiles.
He glanced at Philippa, who was inspecting a stream of faded graffiti across the crumbling walls.
Think we'll get good footage?
Philippa shrugged.
With adequate lighting,
She said,
we could get the night vish stuff from the van. But if we're not shooting after dark,
How many cameras?
5 standalones. And this baby here.
Philippa patted the unit on her shoulder.
Then I'm thinking 1 down here, maybe 1 in the ballroom, 2 on the upper floors.
Alex raised a hand.
I thought we weren't allowed on the upper floors.
Simon flashed them a wink.
Alex, what H&S don't know won't hurt them, okay?
Ian resisted the urge to point out that health and safety would know once the episode aired. There was no use arguing with Simon in this mood. Simon bustled off across the lobby, cooing over patches of rubble. Ian sat down at the bottom of the grand staircase.
Big place.
Said Alex, leaning on the banister with a nonchalance Ian didn't believe.
Why'd it close?
After Claire, Alex was the youngest member of the crew. Wide-eyed and eager to please, they reminded Ian too much of the fans he often met at conventions, so excited to be part of the show, so happy to be here. Usual story, I imagine, Ian muttered. Business dried up and people moved on. The family wound up in tax trouble, so nobody wants to buy it. Alex regarded him curiously.
Is all that stuff in the script true?
They asked.
People being followed, those kids with the graffiti, all the freaky bits later on about bedroom mirrors.
Ian's lip twitched. You read the scripts? He asked.
You don't?
Asked Philippa, coming up beside them. It's my job to read them. Why'd you bother? It's all just nonsense from Simon.
I think they're pretty cool, actually.
Said Alex. Philippa shrugged.
I only read Claire's parts. To help her practice.
Claire stood alone amidst the remains of a glistening chandelier, staring upwards into a gaping hole left in the ceiling. If she heard them talking, she was trying very hard to pretend otherwise. Yeah, well, Ian muttered, given my luck, it'll all be Claire's part soon. Philippa's eyes narrowed.
Hey,
She hissed.
it's not her fault Simon's a prick.
Oh, is that what you were fighting about last night? Ian shot back as Alex reddened. Philippa flinched. She opened her mouth to retort.
Right.
Simon bounded past them up the stairs.
We're being thrown out at 9, which gives us exactly 4 hours to film. So let's get a standalone on the first floor. Maybe see about finding that ballroom.
Ian slicked back his hair, flashed Philippa a grim little smile, and rose to follow. The stairs creaked under his own weight. Ian frowned. What the hell was Simon playing at? He consoled himself with the knowledge that if he did fall through the floorboards here, he'd know exactly who to sue. He was halfway up the stairs when Alex's tentative voice came from behind.
You right, Claire?
Ian glanced over his shoulder. Claire had paused on the bottom step, staring across the marble floor, her head cocked as if listening for something. She flinched and turned at Alex's voice, her expression a mixture of surprise and bewilderment.
Did you hear that?
She asked.
Hear what?
Asked Philippa, with a hint of impatience. Claire turned back to the lobby. The space stood empty and silent, save for the group's plodding footsteps and the distant rustling of trees.
Nothing.
She said, flashing a hesitant smile.
Probably just a bird.
Alex waited for Claire to join them before walking again.
It's weird in here, isn't it?
Ian heard them murmur.
I thought I heard something on the drive. Like a whisper, you know? And did you see all that broken glass downstairs? Where do you think it came from?
Ian rolled his eyes and kept climbing. Above them, Simon had already reached the top of the stairs.
See?
He stamped triumphantly on the mold-thinned carpets.
Safe as houses.
In varying shades of reluctance, the rest of the crew joined him. Around them, the landing split off from the first of the 2 long balconies. Doors led away in all directions, overseen by the row of grime-covered windows.
Right, let's see what we're working with.
Simon marched to a door and shouldered it open, revealing a long, dark corridor of hotel bedrooms. Brass numbers gleamed in the shadows. Patches of carpets echoed across damp floorboards. No windows here, just skeletal light fittings and the distant suggestion of sunlight. Simon rubbed his hands.
Talk about atmosphere.
He turned to Philippa.
Do you think we can get away with natural lighting?
Look,
Said Philippa, heaving her camera onto the landing.
just how deep are we actually going inside this place?
Deep as we can get away with.
I'm serious, Simon. This equipment's not light enough for...
Did anyone else see that?
Asked Claire. They turned. Claire was staring down at the balcony to the next row of doors.
See what?
Asked Philippa. Was it a ghost? Ian asked, his voice laden with sarcasm. Claire reddened.
I saw something.
She insisted, pointing to the furthest door in the row.
Over there. A person.
Simon pushed to the front of the group.
I certainly hope not.
He said.
Are you sure?
Alex craned to look.
They were just standing in the doorway, watching us.
Ian hoped his expression didn't betray his sudden flash of unease. Nothing. It was nothing. He'd seen nothing in the window, and Claire had seen nothing in the doorway. Maybe she'd seen more on the steps outside than she'd let on. Maybe this was her idea of revenge for the petty little comment, once again making him feel old and stupid and superfluous. Oh, for Christ's sake! Ian strode across the balcony to the door Claire had indicated, opened it with a shove and glared inside. Beyond the door lay a small square room, empty save for a pile of curling wallpaper in one corner and the remains of a rusted TV set in the other. 2 dusty windows looked out across the driveway and fields beyond. Nothing here, Ian reported. Of course.
Good lighting, though.
Said Philippa, glancing over his shoulder. Simon gave a breathy snort of relief.
Well, I think this bodes well for the shoot, don't you?
Claire frowned.
But I definitely saw.
She began. Philippa rounded on her.
For Christ's sake, Claire.
She snapped.
There's nothing here. Can't you just drop it?
Claire shrank back, her jaw tightening.
I'm sorry.
She said, straightening her shoulders.
I think I just need a moment.
She turned on her heel and walked stiffly away down the balcony, before breaking into a stumbling run as she reached the doors.
Claire!
Philippa jolted after her.
I didn't mean...
It was too late. Claire had already vanished through a distant doorway.
Jesus Christ.
Simon jerked a thumb in Claire's direction.
Philippa, go after your girlfriend, please. Make sure she doesn't fall through the floor.
Philippa shot him a poisonous look, then set down her camera and hurried off after Claire. Ian heard her calling Claire's name as she vanished into the gloom.
Well, that's just great.
Simon muttered.
No presenter and no camera woman.
We could always record some voiceover for Ian.
Suggested Alex, with a nervous smile, looking visibly shaken from Claire's sudden departure.
I've got stuff in the van.
Oh, right.
Simon looked at Ian as if he'd only just remembered he was there.
Of course.
There was a thud of running footsteps as Philippa reappeared in the corridor entrance.
She's gone!
What do you mean?
Said Simon.
She can't have gone that far.
I walked to the end of the corridor. She's not there!
Oh, for God's sakes, Alex.
Simon nodded in the direction of Philippa.
Help, will you? We've only got this place for a few hours.
Alex flashed Ian an apologetic glance before resting their boom against the wall and hurrying away across the balcony. Their footsteps faded as they rounded the corner into the darkness. Simon gave Ian a resigned grin.
Meet back in 15 minutes.
He said, checking his watch.
I'm sure one of us will find her.
Sure, muttered Ian, staring back down the stairs towards the lobby. I'll get right on that. As the rest of the crew made their way into the hotel, Ian sauntered across the lobby towards the front doors. The others could find Claire in their own time. He needed a smoke. At some point, after they'd entered the building, the front doors had swung shut behind them. Ian tried the handle. It wouldn't turn. He rattled it, in case the mechanisms were stiff. But still, nothing happened. The doors were locked. Ian rolled his eyes. Simon must have triggered a deadbolt, letting the door slam shut without checking they were properly secured. If Ian had any hope of getting out of here, he needed Simon's keys. Ian shot an irritated glance over his shoulder, but Simon, Philippa, and Alex had already vanished through their respective doors. "Simon," he called. His voice echoed up into the lobby ceiling, swallowed by the shadows. Nobody replied. Standing alone, the lobby seemed so much bigger, so much emptier. A soft breeze rustled the trailing ivy. Shadows gathering in distant doorways seemed to take on the appearance of watching figures, waiting in readiness, silent and still. Ian turned from the door and stomped across the lobby, forcing the images from his mind. How many abandoned places had he visited over his career? How many supposedly haunted castles and manor houses and B&Bs? The only thing that made Fellmore any different was that he'd been abandoned inside it, left alone by an incompetent crew and an even more incompetent director. Forget any supposed ghosts. That was the true horror here. Picking a doorway that looked vaguely like the one Simon had vanished through, Ian set off into the gloom of Fellmore Hotel.
All right, what'd you guys think? I finished my bourbon, and I want to pour more, but I'm kind of buzzed already. I kind of want to pace myself. We have many more episodes to go for tonight. I wanted to try out a couple things real quick for the rest of you that are in here. Thank you so much for still sticking around for this. I want to try to put a poll up because I've never done it before. I just got affiliate the stream before last. So last Whiskey Wednesday that I did. So I haven't tried out some of these things. So I'm going to put up a poll real quick. If you wouldn't mind participating in it just to see if it works. Actually, I'll just post it, see if it works. Even if you don't vote in it, it doesn't matter. But yeah, let's do that. Let's do this. What should I do next? Actually, maybe, yeah. Hey, you know what? Let's make it a real one, I guess. I don't know. Let's do... then... How do I... Oh. I don't even know how to do this. Oh, okay, I get it. Got it. Okay. Hopefully that worked. Did that work? Okay, so the poll is, what should we do next? We listen to the next episode of The Hotel, which will be actually Claire's episode, which is done by the writer, Georgia Cook. Fantastic writer and narrator voice actress. Or should we read a short little story real quick? I'll leave it up to you. Leave it up to you. Hopefully that worked. I think it worked. Has opened a poll. It's so weird, like, not being able to see what it does on the other end for you all. You know, on the streamer thing, it doesn't... It has the follower goal thing, which I don't even remember doing. Can you tell I'm still kind of new to this and trying to figure it out? Ah. And my buddy who's usually here and modding for me is not here. So there's that. He might know how to do some of these things. I don't know. If that worked, let me know. If it didn't, let me know.
Vote in the poll. I don't know. When does it end? Oh, time elapsed. Okay. Oh, and then I just manually close it? Got it. Can I change that? I need to mess around with this. I wonder if there's a way to do a test stream without streaming so I can test some of this stuff out. I don't know. Also, some things that I was thinking. I also have an interest in doing some improv and voice acting on the stream, which, I need to edit my lines for that. Mental note. There's a couple of different audio dramas that I'm in. Think of it like a more contemporary version of The Shadow and old school radio, like I was talking about earlier. There's a fantastic production by Pennant Production that have been a recurring character on there for many, many years. I play a very bad man who has some redeeming qualities as you get to, know him more. But it's a kind of a space opera, if you will, set in I don't know if I should explain very much of it because I might ruin some of the story, but Pendant Audio Productions, The Kingery is what I'm talking about. And maybe I'll feature more of that kind of stuff on the channel too. And I was thinking about maybe incorporating some gameplay in the aspect of trying to get some more improv and voice acting kind of performance out of it. So I was thinking maybe I'll do some, because I've tried it in the past, but maybe I just need to kind of do it more. Some GTA RP. I got accepted to the Prodigy server. I've been playing an old man character on there, so I'm practicing my old man voice as Otto, the fisherman. And I've already had some pretty interesting adventures on that server because it's all about role-playing, and I think it'd be a fantastic opportunity to not only do some gameplay, but get into some role-play and improv as well. And that's kind of some practice on me in character voice and improvisation, acting skills. So maybe I'll feature some more of that. I also have an interest in space games. I've been a very early backer of Star Citizen, and that game's never going to come out. But maybe we'll play the beta of that, or maybe some Elite Dangerous, and we can play the role of being a commander of a spaceship. I don't know. I'm trying to think of ways to incorporate the gaming aspect of Twitch into narration and voice acting. So if you have any ideas, let me know. I'm all ears. Anything that you'd like me to play or kind of take part of. Maybe we'll do some RPGs or something. I don't know, Baldur's Gate 3 or something. I have no idea. I'm just looking for kind of some fun stuff to do. And I'm waffling to see if anybody actually clicks on the actual vote button thing, if it works. Or maybe it forces you to type in either !episode or !story with a capital S. That's not preferred. I got to figure this out. Anyways, I'm not going to stall any longer because I think it worked. I'm just going to end it. You can no longer... Why is it still counting down? Oh, I can reopen it. Just close it again. All right, I'll stop messing around. I'm going to go to episode number 2. If you've joined me today, or if you're just kind of jumping into the stream and you're like, what the heck is going on with this? I am a professional audiobook narrator and voice actor. I've been doing voice acting and narration since about 2015-ish, and really kind of taking it seriously starting this year in terms of actually doing it for money. That makes you professional, right? I started a business, and I'm doing the going full bore into audiobook narration. So I'm within my first year of really seriously trying to do audiobook narration as a full-time gig, hopefully, is the goal. I've got about 4 books out there right now. I'm finishing up a sci-fi book, about 25 hours long, in this very first book in a series, a sci-fi series. It's like Star Wars meets Star Trek meets Hawaii Five-0, if you will. It's kind of like a space opera meets cops. I don't know. It's kind of space cops, I guess, is a way to describe it. But There's a little bit of intrigue in there as well, and that space opera kind of element like Star Wars, right? So it's really good. Lots of interesting characters, really good world building, and that'll be out here soon. I'm kind of finishing up the last chapter and doing the editing now, so that'll be out on Audible, and I'll give you guys more info as that kind of stuff comes out. And then I have 2 more series that I'm booked up until the end of the year and maybe into the start of the next year doing, which will be horror thriller genre, which I'm also excited to jump into. And I'll let you guys know more about that when it comes up as well. But anyways, we're going to jump into another thing that I do, which is short story narration for the Other Stories podcast. 2 gentlemen out of the UK started this bad boy, and every month there's a new theme, and every week you get a new episode. But on Halloween, you get a special, and that's what we're listening to tonight on Halloween night. What better night to jump into the Halloween special, right? So we've just listened to episode 1, where a group of paranormal investigators that have this TV show about said subject go into a haunted hotel, and some stuff happens. Some dastardly deeds happen as well, which we'll dive into. Every episode is kind of done like an audiobook, if you will, a narration, but it's done by, each episode is done by a character that's in this particular special. So the first episode, I narrated and I did all my own voice lines, but every character does their own voice lines. So it's kind of like a multicast audiobook in a way, if you want to think about it that way, with full production of music and sound effects. So I think it's really good. It's a really good production. They always put on really good stuff every Halloween. I think last Halloween special was an alternative reality take on Alice in Wonderland. It had the caterpillar, which is the character that I played, and the Mad Hatter, but it was all kind of twisted and horrified, kind of like, a Wes Craven meets Alice in Wonderland, if you will. And it was fantastic. Encourage you to go check on that, if you will. theotherstories.net for all this stuff. Let's jump into episode 2, which is narrated by the writer of this whole thing, Georgia Cook, who plays the role of Claire in this. So let's jump into her episode. Fantastic narrator, writer, and voice actress. Let's jump into her episode as soon as I figure out how to do that here on Spotify. Oh, here we go. Claire's episode. Here we go. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I appreciate it.
Our story follows Jeremy Larkin and Maddie Townsend, 2 co-workers at the mysterious Homewood Foundation, as they are possessed by the ghosts of Jonathan and Mina Harker and embark on a road trip across the country carrying Dracula's severed head in an effort to achieve their ghost's wishes, to stop Dracula once and for all.
I gotta check
We
this out.
are about to launch our Kickstarter for Season 1, but you are able to listen to our trailer and pilot episode for free wherever you get your podcasts.
Jump in.
Including Spotify, Acast, and Apple Podcasts.
At the very end, should we listen to that pilot episode and see what Georgia Cook has cooked up? See what I did there for us? Maybe we will. I don't know. Here we go.
Hey, true crime fans. Tired of
Oh,
ads
no.
interrupting your gripping investigation?
Yes, I'm going to skip this. Let's just jump into the episode.
.robinhood.com/election. Real-time market sentiment.
Blood drips from their mouths.
You're tonight. More news from 6, but for now, hope you settled in for a spooky time with your favourite ghost hunters, because the Phantom Finds team are at it again.
Claire scrubbed her eyes with a sleeve, forcing back another sob. She was done. She hated this. Hated the sweltering hot production van. Hated the show and its endless dreary locations. Hated Simon and his wandering eyes. Hated how angry it all made Philippa. How irritable she made Ian. Alex was sweet, at least. But sweet couldn't save these endless, miserable months. The air up here was thick and cloying. A pocket of sunlight at the top of the world. The smell of dust was almost overwhelming. The window's faded cushions lumpy and uncomfortable. But it was enclosed, private. Claire hadn't meant to run away. She just wanted to turn, compose herself, force back the stares from her crewmates, pitying and resentful, irritated and sneering, and get back to the chute. But her feet had kept going, carrying her away down the balcony, and then suddenly she couldn't stop. She hadn't wanted to stop. She just needed to be away. She'd stumbled blindly upstairs and down gloomy passages, footsteps echoing, throat burning, holding back tears she knew she'd been holding in for months. Finally, exhausted, she'd thrown herself against a window seat on the second floor, concealed from the corridor by a musty velvet curtain, and let out the tears she'd been holding back all day. It felt good to cry. Claire didn't know if they were tears of misery or frustration, perhaps even anger, hot and sharp at the back of her throat, but they came regardless. Finally she sat back, rested her forehead against the dusty window pane, and forced herself to breathe. Down below, the dense woodland of Felmore Forest gave way to sweeping moors and bristling heather, winding back and back for miles without a sign of life, not even the distant woolly specks of sheep. Claire let her gaze trail over the distant hilltops, tall against the growing dusk. She'd grown accustomed to the array of dilapidated and abandoned properties on Simon's filming list, but something about Felmore seemed uniquely sorrowful. Perhaps it was the location, high on the Yorkshire moors. Perhaps it was the strange, sad way the hotel seemed to be sinking in on itself, as if the landscape were trying to swallow it whole. Perhaps it was the fight she'd had with Philippa the night before. Just another in a line of increasingly frequent spats, never properly concluded, never won or lost, always ending with them curled away from one another, staring miserably into the bedroom darkness, their future increasingly fragmented. Philippa had snapped at her again, because she'd seen something in the lobby. Claire blinked. In the overflow of emotions, she'd almost forgotten what had sent her running in the first place. A flutter of fingers and a flash of hair, a shadow of a shadow dark against the gloom. Something rustled in the corridor outside, a shift of fabric, almost undetectable in the stillness. Claire paused, listening for footsteps. She didn't want to be found. Not yet. Not here. Not by her girlfriend, not by Simon, or anyone on the Phantom Finds crew. Claire wanted to bathe in this solitude for just a little longer. She drew her knees tight to her chest and tried to slow her breathing, becoming one with the hotel, with this warm little pocket of afternoon sunlight. She felt like a child again, hiding from her older brothers as they ran from room to room in their grandparents' home, gleefully shouting her name until they grew bored. If she could have just 5 more minutes. The noise outside came again, just a touch louder than before. Claire recognised it now. It was the sound she'd heard on the stairs. A faint impression in the air, so soft it could be almost anything, except for the melodious rhythm that turned it into either notes or words. Somewhere, off between the rooms, someone was playing music. "Philippa?" Claire whispered, and immediately felt stupid for the assumption. When nobody answered, she poked her head into the corridor. The world stretched away on either side, empty save for dust and peeling wallpaper. The distant music slowly faded, leaving silence behind. In the back of her mind, Claire wondered how she had ever found this place unnerving. The corridors swirled with sunlight. Shadows dappled the distant walls. Each creak and rustle echoed like a heartbeat through its broken rooms. Through the haze of stress, it was almost lovely. Claire slipped from behind the curtain and padded across the carpet. To her right, the corridor wound back towards the hotel lobby, shifting in and out of patches of sunlight. To her left, a sharp turn marked the point where two corridors intersected, concealing a further section from view. Claire craned her neck to see. A door creaked open suddenly behind her. Claire spun to face it, staring as the silhouette of Philippa appeared at the end of the corridor. Claire froze, feeling like a cornered animal, alone and exposed in the middle of the corridor. If she ran now, quickly and quietly enough, would she still have time to... Philippa turned in Claire's direction. Her eyes widened.
Claire!
She scrambled down the corridor towards her, feet thundering over the creaking floorboards.
There you are! We've been looking all over for you.
Claire tried not to wince at the noise, resisting the urge to scoop herself back inside the window seat. I'm fine. Sorry.
Where on earth did you go?
Claire felt herself redden. She drew back as Philippa reached her. Philippa also paused, as if realizing the full extent of what she'd just asked. Both women eyed one another awkwardly. Philippa looked away first, her cheeks darkening.
I'm sorry,
she muttered.
I shouldn't have snapped at you.
I shouldn't have run away, Claire sighed. Philippa gave her a strained smile, but it didn't reach her eyes.
Simon has that effect on most people, I think,
she said. Claire tried to return the smile, but she suspected it looked every bit as fake as Philippa's. They weren't fooling anyone.
Maybe we can find some clues at the scene of the crime.